I never thought my mom would pick sides like this. During my dad's divorce proceedings, Chloe openly favoured my younger sister, leaving me blindsided. Arguments about money spiralled out of control, and family secrets spilled in the courtroom. You won't believe how far favoritism can tear a family apart. I've always known my mum, Chloe, could be complicated. She's 50 now, sharp, opinionated, and, well, sometimes unfair without even realising it. But nothing prepared me for what happened during my parents' divorce. My dad, Brian, had finally called it quits after 20-something years of marriage, and the money was about to turn our family into a battlefield. It all started one grey Thursday morning. The kind where the sun barely shines through the courthouse windows, and you can smell the stale coffee from the vending machine down the hall. My younger sister, Mia, who's 21, was sitting next to Mom in the front row of the courtroom. I came in a bit late, diggling my laptop bag in a file folder, and immediately felt the tension. Mom barely glanced at me before whispering to Mia, "Sit closer, honey, do you know the lawyer might call on you first?" I froze. I wasn't expecting this. Why was she already setting Mia up like she was the golden child? And then came the first jab, subtle, but cutting. "Chloe, maybe your older daughter can hold the paperwork," Dad's lawyer suggested politely. Mom smiled, nodded, and turned to Mia. "Don't worry, sweetie, I'll take care of you." That's when my chest tightened. I wanted to disappear right there in the courtroom. All those years, I thought Mom tried to be fair, at least in front of me. But now, sitting there, watching her fawn over me while barely acknowledging my presence, I realised how blind I'd been. Things escalated quickly during the financial discussions. Dad's assets, the house, savings accounts, even the tiny stocks he had, everything became a tug-of-war. Mom made subtle comments favouring Mia. "I just think Mia deserves a little extra. You know how she's still figuring out her life." I felt like I'd been shoved to the sidelines. I tried to speak up, but she would brush me off. "Chloe, you're already doing fine. Mia needs us right now." By the time lunch break rolled around, the tension was palpable. In the courthouse cafeteria, Mom whispered to Mia, "We'll make sure you get the apartment. Don't worry about your sister." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I clutched my sandwich so hard I thought I might crush it. I left without saying a word, wandering the empty hallways trying to breathe. And that's when I realised this wasn't just about money. It was about favoritism, and it had always been there, just hidden. Now, under the fluorescent lights of divorce proceedings, it was on full display. I wasn't sure if I was angry, hurt, or just exhausted. But one thing was clear: if I didn't speak up soon, this courtroom would not only decide the money, it would also decide how our family remembered this breakup. And somehow, I knew Mom didn't even realise she'd already chosen sides. The second day of the hearings was even worse. I had barely slept, tossing and turning all night, replaying Mom's whispered words over and over. I walked into the courthouse, already bracing myself, and found her sitting with Mia, of course, both laughing quietly at some joke I wasn't in on. I felt like a stranger in my own family. Dad looked tired, older than I'd ever seen him, sitting at the defense table with his lawyer. My younger brother, Ethan, 27, was there too. He tried to stay neutral, but I could see him fidgeting, clearly torn. He caught my eye and mouthed, "You okay?" I forced a nod, though inside I felt anything but okay. The morning started with the asset division, and immediately Mom leaned toward Mia, giving subtle nudges when the lawyer asked questions. "Mia, maybe you want to explain how much rent you've been paying," she suggested, with that patronising tone that made my stomach twist. I opened my mouth to speak, but Mom's eyes shot daggers at me, silently telling me to stay quiet. By lunchtime, the tension had reached a boiling point. Ethan cornered me near the hallway vending machines, whispering, "You need to say something. Mom, she's clearly picking sides, and it's not just about the money." I wanted to scream, but instead I nodded. He patted my shoulder and said, "Just don't let this ruin everything." Back in the courtroom, the financial discussion turned ugly. Dad's lawyer pointed out some discrepancies in Mom's budget claims, and Mom immediately deflected, saying, "Mia understands this situation better. She's responsible, she's practical, unlike some people here." The some people was obviously me. My face burned. I wanted to jump up and call her out, but I didn't. I felt paralysed, trapped between anger and disbelief. Then came the breaking point. The judge asked about the house and who would live there. Mom's answer was chilling. "I think Mia should have it. Chloe can manage it on her own. She's fine." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Dad flinched, probably shocked. Ethan looked conflicted, and I just sat there, feeling my chest tighten so much I thought I might collapse. After the session ended, Mom leaned close to me again, whispering, "See? I told you it would work out." I couldn't hold it anymore. I stood up, voice shaking, tears welling in my eyes. "Mom, this isn't fair. Why are you doing this to me? Why is Mia the only one who matters?" The courtroom went silent. Mia looked stunned. Dad's lawyer looked uncomfortable, and even Ethan seemed unsure where to stand. Mom's face went red, her lips pressed tight. She opened her mouth, probably to defend herself, but no words came out immediately. I realised then that I had crossed the line, but honestly, I didn't care. Something inside me had snapped, and I couldn't let favoritism ruin my family any further without speaking up. The next morning, I barely looked at Mom. She sat with Mia, of course, whispering and giggling like nothing had happened yesterday. I could feel the tension radiating off Ethan as he passed me, his jaw tight. I didn't even know if he was on my side or just trying not to make things worse. Dad's lawyer started with a new topic, the retirement accounts. "Chloe, can you clarify why you've allocated a high percentage to Mia?" he asked, his tone polite but firm. Mom's response was immediate, practiced. "Mia has more immediate expenses, college loans, rent. She really needs the extra. Chloe has a stable job and can manage." I felt my hands ball into fists. "Mom, that's not fair. I have bills too, and I've been supporting myself for years." I shouted before I could stop myself. My voice echoed through the courthouse. Heads turned. Mia froze, wide-eyed, and Mom's face shifted from surprise to sheer irritation. "Chloe, sit down," she hissed, leaning over the table. "You're embarrassing yourself." I stood taller, unwilling to back down. "No, I've stayed quiet too long while you played favourite. Do you even realise how hurtful this is?" Ethan finally stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Mom, maybe you should listen. She has a point." His voice cracked slightly. He'd never been one to speak against Mom. Mom glared at him like he'd grown another head. The judge, a stern woman with greying hair, finally intervened. Let's maintain order. Chloe, please explain calmly what you feel is unfair. I swallowed hard, emotions bubbling. Mom, I feel like you've always favoured Mia, and now during the divorce, it's obvious I love my sister, but I'm sick of being treated like I don't matter. The money, the house, it's not just numbers, it's how you make me feel. The courtroom was silent. Mia had tears in her eyes, and even Dad's normally stoic expression softened. Mom opened her mouth, probably to argue, but the words caught in her throat. For a moment, she looked like she'd been punched not physically, but emotionally. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. Mom's voice cracked as she finally said, I didn't realise it hurt you this much. I thought I was helping, guiding. I didn't mean to. Her eyes welled up, and I realised something important. Mom wasn't cruel. She was blind. She'd never considered how her guidance could feel like favoritism. The tension didn't disappear instantly, but the air shifted. Even me seemed uncomfortable, muttering, I didn't want it to be like this. Ethan gave me a small nod, and Dad finally exhaled, relief flickering across his face. I sat down, heart racing, tears slipping down my cheeks. The battle wasn't over. The financial disputes would continue, but for the first time, my voice had been heard. Mom had seen me not just as the responsible older daughter, but as a person whose feelings mattered. And maybe, just maybe, we had taken the first step toward repairing the damage favoritism had caused. After the confrontation, things didn't magically become peaceful. Walking into the courthouse that morning, I could feel the tension in every step. Mom avoided looking at me, her head tilted toward Mia, who now seemed uneasy, as if she knew the golden child act had blown up. Ethan stuck close, trying to act neutral, but I could see him clenching his fist behind his back. The session started with a discussion about the house. Dad's lawyer laid out a proposal, but Mom immediately countered. Mia should have it. Chloe can rent or find her own place. She's independent enough. My stomach dropped, and I could feel the old resentment rising. Mom, I said, my voice tighter than I wanted. We just talked about this yesterday. Why are you still treating Mia like she's the only one who matters? Her eyes narrowed. Chloe, I'm just being practical. You know that. I shook my head. No, Mom, you're being biased. You're deciding who gets what based on what? Your favourites. It's not fair, and you know it. The courtroom went quiet. Even Dad, who had been silent all morning, leaned forward, his breath furrowed. Chloe's right, he said. You can't just divide things based on favoritism. Everyone deserves a fair shot. Mom's face flushed crimson. I just think Mia needs more help right now. She's younger, still figuring things out. And I'm older. Mom, I've been figuring things out too. I shouted. The tension was palpable, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Then came the bombshell. Ethan, who had been quiet for most of the hearings, finally spoke up. Mom, you always do this. You favour Mia and expect Chloe to just accept it. I can't sit here and watch this anymore. Mom's jaw dropped. Ethan, that's not fair. Not fair, Mom. This is how you've treated us our whole lives. Chloe, Mia and me too, in a way. You see the world through who you like more, and it's tearing us apart. Mia looked shocked, glancing between us and Mom, finally seeing her mother's bias with new eyes. I realised then that this moment wasn't just about money, it was a reckoning. Mom's shoulders slumped, and for the first time, she didn't have an answer. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't realise. I thought I was helping her. I didn't know it hurt you this much, Chloe. I exhaled, the tension slightly easing, though my heart was still racing. Mom, it's not about punishing Mia, it's about being fair, for all of us. The judge cleared her throat. I want everyone to understand something. Family disputes are emotional, but fairness matters. Let's proceed with that in mind. Walking out of the courtroom for a brief recess, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Mom hadn't fully admitted wrongdoing, but she had seen the cracks in her behaviour. I could finally sense a possibility, a real chance that we could navigate this messy divorce without losing ourselves completely. The hardest part wasn't the money. It was the favoritism. And now, for the first time, it was out in the open. After the recess, I returned to the courtroom with a mixture of apprehension and cautious hope. Mom was sitting quietly, barely glancing at Mia or me. Ethan gave me a small, reassuring nod, as if saying, we've got this. I wasn't sure what this meant yet, but I knew the next few hours would be critical. The discussion turned to Dad's savings accounts and investments. Numbers flew across the screen in the courtroom projector. Percentages, balances, spreadsheets, it all felt cold and abstract, but underlying it was raw emotion. Mom started directing questions toward Mia, as usual, but this time her tone lacked confidence. It was almost defensive. At one point, the lawyer asked about the joint checking account. Mom hesitated, then admitted, I may have prioritised Mia in the past, maybe more than I should have. Her voice was quiet, almost pained. I felt a flicker of hope. For the first time, Mom was acknowledging the favoritism instead of brushing it off. Mia looked at her with wide eyes. What do you mean all those times you said I needed extra help? It wasn't fair to Chloe, she whispered. Mom swallowed hard. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just thought I was helping you, honey. I didn't realise how much it affected Chloe. I felt my chest tighten, a mix of relief and lingering resentment. Mom, it did affect me, but we can fix it if we try. Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady. We need fairness, Mom. That's all we're asking. We're not trying to take Mia down, we just want a balanced outcome. For the rest of the session, Mom seemed different. She still wanted to guide Mia, but she checked herself, looking at me and even nodding when I made a point about shared expenses and responsibilities. There was tension, yes, but there was also dialogue for the first time in weeks. At one point, Mom pulled me aside in the hallway, her eyes red and tired. Chloe, I'm sorry. I honestly didn't see it before. I guess I've always been scared, trying to keep the family together in my own way. I didn't realise it felt like favoritism. I felt tears prick my eyes. I know, Mom, I get it now, but you need to see all of us, not just me. That's all I'm asking. She nodded slowly. I'll try. I really will. Returning to the courtroom, the sessions continued with a slightly calmer atmosphere. Dad seemed relieved, Ethan more confident, and even Mia looked uneasy about how her mother had treated me. The financial discussions were still stressful, but there was a sense that real fairness was finally possible. Leaving the courthouse that evening, the sun was breaking through the clouds, and I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Cautious optimism. Mom's favoritism hadn't vanished, and the road ahead was still messy, but for the first time, it felt like we could navigate this divorce without completely fracturing our family. I realized that money would always be complicated, but the big issue was being seen and valued by your family. And finally, for the first time in a long time, I felt like Mom truly saw me. Final week of the divorce hearings arrived, and the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. I walked into the courthouse clutching my folder like armor, bracing for the storm. Mom sat with me again, but this time there was a noticeable restraint in her demeanor. Ethan stayed close to me, a quiet anchor in the chaos. The judge called the session to order, and Dad's lawyer started with the most contentious issue, the division of the house and retirement funds. Numbers were thrown around like daggers, but it wasn't just about the money anymore, it was about recognition, fairness, and respect. Mom made her first move, addressing the judge. I want to apologise for the way I've handled things. I've been unfair in favouring Mia, and I see that now. Chloe has every right to her share. I felt my heart skip a beat. Finally, she was acknowledging the favoritism in front of everyone. But she wasn't done. She turned toward Mia, her voice shaking slightly. Honey, I love you, but I need to treat everyone equally. That includes Chloe and Ethan. I was wrong. Mia's face softened, a mixture of relief and guilt crossing her features. Even Dad, who had been stoically silent, let out a quiet breath. Ethan leaned closer to me, whispering, "This is huge." Then came the moment I'd been dreading, the house discussion. Mom took a deep breath. "I propose we sell the house and split the proceeds evenly. That way, no one feels left out or overlooked." I blinked, almost stunned. Mom, who had favoured me since the start, was finally putting fairness above her own impulses. That's fair," I managed to say, my voice shaky but relieved. The courtroom murmured with quiet acknowledgement. Even Mia nodded, though I could see the disappointment behind her eyes. It wasn't about greed, it was about comfort and security. Then came the final twist. Dad's lawyer brought up a small, previously overlooked trust fund. Mom hesitated for a split second, then said, "Let's divide it equally as well. No one gets preferential treatment." I felt tears welling up, but this time, they were tears of relief and hope. For the first time, the family wasn't divided by money or favoritism. It was about fairness, honesty, and acknowledging each other's worth. After the session ended, Mom came over to me. "Chloe, I can't change the past, but I can try to be better. I want to fix this, starting now." I nodded, my throat tight. "Mom, thank you. That means more than you know." Ethan wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and even Mia came close, murmuring, "I'm sorry too." For the first time since the divorce proceedings began, the family felt whole again, or at least on the path to being so. The money issues weren't completely resolved, but the favoritism, the hurt, and the resentment were finally being addressed. Walking out of the courthouse that evening, the sun was warm on my face. I realized something. The real victory wasn't in the money or the house, it was in being seen, acknowledged, and finally, treated fairly by the person who mattered most, Mom. A week after the final hearing, the house had been sold, the accounts divided, and the courtroom battles officially over. The air was lighter, but the emotional weight lingered. Mom, Chloe, seemed different now, softer, more reflective. She wasn't perfect, but she had finally seen the damage favoritism had caused and was trying to make amends. We all gathered at a small cafe near the courthouse to decompress. Ethan was the first to speak, his voice calm but firm. "I know things have been rough, but maybe this is a chance to start fresh." Mia fidgeted with her coffee cup, looking at me. I get it now. Mom didn't mean to hurt you, Chloe. I didn't realize how it must have felt." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Thanks, Mia. I know it wasn't just you. Mom's always had her favourites, but now at least we're talking about it." Mom reached across the table, resting her hand on mine. Her eyes glistened. "Chloe, I know words aren't enough, and I couldn't undo the past, but I want you to know I see you. I see all of you. I want to do better." It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. For years, I have felt invisible, overshadowed by Mia's needs and Mom's favoritism. Now, in this quiet cafe, I finally felt acknowledged. Over the next few weeks, our family dynamics began to shift. Mom made a conscious effort to include me in decisions, to listen to my opinions, and to check herself before favouring Mia. Ethan remained our mediator, always ready to diffuse tension with a joke or a quiet comment. Mia, though initially disappointed about some of the financial outcomes, slowly accepted that fairness was more important than perks. One evening, we all gathered at Mom's apartment, our new neutral space post-divorce, for a casual dinner. The atmosphere was light, laughter spilling over the clatter of dishes. Mom made a toast to family flawed, messy, imperfect, but still ours, and to learning that love isn't about choosing favourites, it's about seeing everyone. I raised my glass, smiling genuinely. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we might actually be okay. Not perfect, but whole enough to heal. Reflecting on everything, I realised the divorce wasn't just a battle over money, it was a mirror showing our family where we had gone wrong. Favoritism had created invisible scars, but acknowledgement, honesty, and communication were the salve. Money could be divided, accounts balanced, and houses sold. But respect, fairness, and being seen, that was priceless. And finally, after so many years of feeling invisible, I felt seen by Mom. Walking home that night, I felt lighter, like a heavy weight had lifted. The courtroom battles were over, but the real victory was deeper. Our family had survived, and maybe even grown stronger.